Right. Well, welcome everyone to one of the Gravity Gaming by ByteSpeed Esports webinar sponsored by Intel. We appreciate you joining us live today in the chat and in the Q&A, and as well as everybody that's viewing this on YouTube after the fact. Really excited to kind of bring back a couple of really unique webinars centered around some of the kind of territory in ByteSpeed's backyard, so to speak. Be able to kind of shed some light on the amazing things that are happening in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I've got an awesome guest here today to talk about scholastic opportunities in the state of Wisconsin. So again, big shout out to Intel for helping to sponsor this webinar and some of the other things that we're doing with Wisconsin this summer. Really, thankful for that partnership. So without further ado, we'll get into some introductions here. My name is Josh Knutson. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Esports and VR Solutions Director here at ByteSpeed. I've been with the company for just over 3 years. I got my start in esports back in 2016 as the head coach at University of Jamestown in North Dakota. And fun fact, the first students that I recruited for my college team in Jamestown actually were from Rice Lake, Wisconsin, way back in the day. So I've got a soft spot for the students of Wisconsin and had an awesome time with them on my roster and working with my guest today here, Mike Dahle, who's the president of the Wisconsin High School Esports Association. Mike, you want to introduce yourself, kind of give us a little bit of background on you?
Sure. So I believe that I've stumbled into esports nearly a decade ago now at this point. And since then, it's kind of spiraled into running a statewide nonprofit organization. I've presented all over the Midwest on behalf of esports. I've been working for Microsoft and their I2E department and a handful of other things. I'm also now a general member for the Scholastic Esports Association as well. I've presented at NACAD and a variety of other places. I've interviewed with a handful of colleges for director positions. So yeah, I've done quite a bit in 5 short years. So it's been a whirlwind of fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking some time out today, Mike, and joining us and kind of lending your expertise, especially as we get into kind of today's topics. And really, we want to focus on the state of Wisconsin and what's happening at the scholastic level. For those of you that are in the attendance today or maybe watching online after the fact, we want to give some background on the state association in Wisconsin, give some history about who and what, the WIHSEA is, and then kind of run through the opportunities that exist there, for competition, reasons for joining the association, and then maybe touch on some of the future plans for, the state. And then the back kind of quarter of the presentation, we want to definitely share some helpful resources for those programs that are getting started that ByteSpeed has out there in terms of information and hardware available and things like that. So let's dive in and really just talk. I love, Mike, for you to just kind of expand and talk on, the history of the state org and kind of where you guys started and came from, and what are the important things to the state association.
So I guess history just kind of goes back right around 6 years ago. We were actually invited to the high school esports invitational in Chicago at Robert Morris University. And I know that we had competed against like 2 or 3 other schools in the high school Star League, which was like the first national league that was out there, just online remote. And so I got approval in order to take a van full of kids down from Arrowhead, where I was teaching at the time. And we started talking, and we were just like, we have all kind of been having the same poor experience with the National League, a lot of forfeits, and we didn't have much investment in from the students. So we decided to just kind of spiral up something of our own. We started 5 years ago with just 7 schools playing League of Legends. Shortly after that, we added Overwatch, Smash Brothers, and Rocket League to our title offerings. And in 5 years now, we're sitting at 150 schools that have either competed, are competing, or are establishing programs for the fall here as well. As far as some other opportunities that we've kind of built up, we've had We now have 5 interns that have been working under me. I was actually able to award scholarships for those students who have been helping, because not everybody is interested in competing in the games. They enjoy doing the shoutcasting and play-by-play, the live streaming, so on and so forth. So the organization continues to grow. We'll be in our 3rd year as a nonprofit starting this summer. We have a board of directors where we do have a few openings. That it does sound like we have a few new members that are looking to step up and join those. We're looking to expand into an advisory and competition committee, and trying to create more student positions as well so that they can help take ownership of all of this. And so I guess it's kind of a little history and structure there. As far as membership, yeah, we're at about 151, I think, schools. I always keep a map running on my website to see, so that way I can always keep track. As far as plans for the future goes, we are looking to add a 3rd season, just with the number of growing popularities with titles. We've already piloted like Fortnite, Apex. We just finished Valorant. We tried NBA 2K, but I think the plans are, there's so many question marks, as I was telling you just before we jumped on. It's all these either exclusivity deals or developers that are coming out with new guidelines that are relatively restrictive, especially around Scholastic and K-12 specifically. We want to be able to offer as many opportunities for our students as possible, but we also have to respect the fact that this is intellectual property that belongs to somebody else. So I understand both sides of the coin. I would wish the coin would lean a little bit more towards Scholastic, but I'm kind of biased. So,
yeah, awesome. So what were those, those early conversations about, you said 5-6 years ago when the association started, those few schools that jumped in and said, yeah, we want to get together and do this. What was kind of the vision back then and kind of the scope that you guys wanted to kind of pull things within the state? Do you remember kind of what the thought process was back then, kind of how those early conversations went?
A lot of my early conversations with the initial group that we had, and most of us are still intact, is that we saw esports as a way in order to connect with students who weren't connected with normal like classrooms. For me, during that time period, it was like Justin TV just switched over to Twitch basically, and all of my kids were watching Twitch during class. And I was like, what are you watching? They're like, oh, it's League of Legends. I'm like, okay, I'm not familiar with that one, but like they were watching it, and I randomly started putting through some video game design curriculum at my school, and I was like, hey, I found this. Do y'all want to compete? And they're like, yeah. And so, that just kind of started the spiral of like, wow, this is kind of cool. And I grew up gaming, and I grew up playing in like LANs and being members of like CSGO clans and StarCraft clans and all this. And I was like, okay. And now all these other individuals I'm talking to from around the state, we all share the same thing. We're seeing all the exact same students being served by our esports teams. Why don't we go ahead and validate this and create a normal structure around this? And those initial conversations, I think it always came to how can we best represent our students? And that's using esports for that. And I think we've never lost sight of that. We've now just expanded that initial from just playing games to how can we actually keep improving the experience for kids. And that's why we're now getting into like shoutcasting and graphic design. I'm trying to find some social media marketing students, just trying to help them take what they're learning in the classroom and give them a real platform to apply what they're passionate about. I don't know if any of you have been following along, but like Andrew, who's our play-by-play caster, he wants to be the next Al Michaels. And it's really cool. Like that's who he admires. And he's like, I will shoutcast this game and this game and this game, and I'll learn this one. He's like, he just wants the experience because it's not available in his traditional school for it. So it's kind of cool to be able to see how they want to use this and where they want to go.
Yeah, awesome. I think it speaks especially to how far you guys have come in a very short time. Not only having more members growing, but like you said, kind of expanding the vision of just like, hey, we're running a season for league, but now, all of these other branches of curriculum stuff and extra, outside the classroom work that can be, really beneficial to those students. So that's super great to see. And definitely, like, I'm sure it's, not going to stop anytime soon. Let's kind of dive in. The root of why you guys started, obviously was through kind of a competitive lens. Do you want to kind of touch on how things are set up currently, with the fall and spring seasons? I know you said you might be adding a season, maybe touch on that. And we can kind of start there and then talk about kind of the rest of these kind of nitty gritty details after that.
Sure. So our fall and spring season, both seasons operate the same, to where there's 8 weeks of regular season. When schools register, we break them down into divisions based upon enrollment size. So we do that in order to try to mirror traditional athletics. We can't break everything down by geographic regions just yet, but as this continues to grow, I really hope that that's something that we can do. But so 8 weeks, you play, hopefully most people in your division, and then everybody qualifies for playoffs. So in your division of 16, there's 8 and 8. And so you play everybody in your conference, and you may play one in the other conference, but basically the 1 seed from this side will play the 8 seed on this side, and then work our way down just like we do with traditional athletics. And then the 2 weeks of playoffs, and whoever makes it to the semifinals. We've been doing LANs. I've run 4 in-person state championships and 1 virtual during COVID. And so it's really awesome to see when they're all in person. You can kind of see behind the case crew here. NTC like built us a stage, and they actually had it in front of the big audience that was there, that students were playing their games in front of everybody. And so like just being able to see those facilities, it's really cool and validates a lot of this to parents as well. So if we're looking to add a third one, which we are, it's to try to then help align better with traditional athletics. One of the major hiccups that we're running into right now is that our spring season starts in usually like late February, early March. And so like the basketball season, the boys basketball is just winding down, and some of our other winter sports are winding down, but then spring is about to kick off. And we have students that are playing for 2 to 3 weeks, and now all of a sudden it's track and field, or it's girls soccer, or it's, whatever it may be. And now they're having to choose between both because they can't miss games on Tuesday for one and play the other, or vice versa. And it's kind of tough. So we're trying to better align with the traditional sports calendar, so we don't have as many of those hiccups.
Gotcha. So is there a split with the different seasons? Let's say, are we playing Rocket League year round, or is it in just one? Or can you kind of talk about the split with kind of titles and how those work into the seasons?
Yeah, so we used to run all 4 days a week. And that created a lot of burnout, and it also created this issue to where students couldn't play sometimes multiple games.
Sure.
And we have some kids that play all 4 titles. There are some that have played in every single regular season and pilot season that we've done this year. They just like to play games and be a part of this type of competition and community. So we decided to go ahead and split things up. So right now, currently, tentatively, Smash and Overwatch will stay as our fall titles. We're looking to do Fortnite and Valorant for our winter titles. And then we had to drop League of Legends because of community guidelines and switched over to Smite and Rocket League then in the spring. Depending on how things work out here, we may actually have to drop Overwatch because of 2 reasons. We don't know what the new community guidelines will be approved or not for our license. And then number 2, we can't control when they switch over to Overwatch 2. So the game going from 6-on-6 to 5-on-5 with only 1 tank will change the game quite a bit. So we may have to have a quick audible once we find that out, and we may just swap Valorant with Overwatch and kind of switch some stuff around. But then I would like to start to hopefully get into just being able to run small community tournaments. Like, hey, this Friday we're doing this as a state, like organize this.
Yeah.
We just talked about last night. It was kind of cool. We talked about doing a statewide Extra Life gaming marathon. to where everybody creates their own school pages, but we're all under our organization. We're all working together as a collective in order to raise money for the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. And then those schools could then also promote their program as a fundraiser too. And I think 24-hour gaming marathons are quite fun. I don't know if my body will be able to handle it, but I'll give it a shot.
That'd be awesome. So what's the difference between, your regular season titles and these pilot titles that you have? Can you talk about kind of that setup and how those work into the broader calendar and what you guys are thinking about doing, moving into the next school year?
So the pilot titles are just kind of an initial engagement of how popular the title actually is, how dedicated students usually are to playing those titles. It gives us on the backside the ability to try to play test some of it almost like a beta. So we can actually figure out like what rules work, what don't, like where did we run into issues, whether that's like student issues or is it network side issues, how did we overcome them? And we can actually start to put documentation together then, and we can put those resources together that we can send out to schools that say like, hey, we ran into this issue working with this software, this is how we overcame it. If you run into more issues, reach out to this person and this person, this is how they solved it. So we usually try to do like 4 matches or something like that, or like a 3-week pilot season, just to kind of see where some of those issues are and how much students actually really enjoy it. Like we had, I think like 72 duos show up for Fortnite.
Wow.
And I was really surprised at that. We had like 48 squads for Apex show up. And that was another number that I was like, wow, that's a lot. Like I didn't expect it to be that much. And even Valorant just showed up with like 26 or 28 teams in a pilot. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. Like these are 3 very popular titles that we really need to look at. And I didn't think about it.
Sure. Is there any talk of, next year's pilot games to look at, or is it still kind of evaluating like an Apex that might not have a season yet, but you still want to have that kind of engagement or that kind of touch point?
I would love to do Apex. 1, because I enjoy playing the game.
Sure.
Number 2, a lot of this is coming down to trying to work with developers in order to get their approval. And Apex is one that they don't want to do Scholastic, K-12 or collegiate. They don't want to give us the ability in order to use their software in that manner. So depending on some of these developers and the restrictions that they're putting on, I get requests all the time, sometimes for weird games. Like I know Multiverse is a new fighter game that's coming out to where you can like be Bugs Bunny fighting Ted Lasso, which I think is hilarious. But like looking at accessibility as well, Brawlhalla would be a good one because it's PC and it's free.
Sure.
It's a 2v2 fighting game. It really works. Most computers would be able to run it, but then I get like very niche ones where it's like, hey, can we play World of Tanks? Like it's really popular at our school. And like, I look it up real fast on Steam charts and it's like peak in the last 24 hours is 4,000 players or something crazy like that. I'm like, guys, I don't know. I don't know. Like just because it's popular at your school doesn't necessarily mean it's popular statewide.
Sure.
We got to take into consideration things like the ESRB rating. Like I know R6, Rainbow Six Siege is really popular. Same with CSGO, but it's got the M rating. Even Call of Duty. Like I know that there's been some community leagues that have been shut down, even if they're 17-year-olds. So they hit the MSRP or ESRB, whichever. But they've actually been shut down because they've been offering it to 17-year-olds. So
sure,
it's kind of tough. If there was enough time in the day, I would offer every title.
Yeah.
Like I would love to find time to do all of it, but unfortunately there's not.
Definitely. So kind of shifting gears just a little bit, can you kind of touch on, like for the schools that might not have programs yet, or they might be looking at starting in the fall here of this year. Can you kind of walk through how game day works? Like how do you actually, going through the association season, how does that kind of work on a typical week?
So usually what I do is because I like to try to plan our social media posts so that way I can like get it out to parents and stuff like that, because we stream all of our matches. Usually what I do is on Monday, I look to see who that we're playing. I try to send out an email on Monday to the various schools and say like, hey, we're playing you this week. We're going to be available by 2:45 p.m. Even though we're not the home team or whatever, we'll set up the lobby. I'm streaming it here. This is my captain's IGN. He's going to send a friend request to yours or whatever it is. And then match day comes around and I usually will sit right behind my captain and say like, all right, so here's their IGN. Or we'll sometimes, depending on the game, we'll actually do some scouting and see like, oh, this guy plays this character and this person plays this one. So we can kind of come up, strategize to what we're playing. But we'll get into the lobby. I have my caster set up in the other room and they'll get into the lobby as well. And then we just essentially kind of play our match. We'll set up the match, whatever it may be. If it's Overwatch, you know, it's random first map, and then winner picks the consecutive maps. And then whoever wins, we have like a match reporting form on our website. You go on, you put it, you punch in, we won. This was our final score of 4-1, whatever it may be. And then once they submit that, it automatically updates our standings on our website. And then I open up our roster document, and I actually keep track of all of my students' stats. So
Awesome.
like for Smash, it's like, oh, John took 9 stocks and he only lost 1 this week.
Mhm.
And so we use those as a means to then have like all conference and all state recipients. To me, it's to ensure that there is some buy-in from an adult being in there. Like just tracking stats, it's not anything outlandish for most games. It's just like, this is how much damage they did, or, you know, how many stocks they took, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Just so that way we can actually see either if they're improving or if they're actually like really, really good. And then sometimes later in the season, we'll use that for like Smash Brothers, we use statistics for seeding our 64 player tournament. So the students with the best records got the highest seeds because over 8 weeks, they took the most stocks and lost the littlest. So we use it in different ways. So,
Gotcha.
but that's kind of my rundown of a week.
Sure. So, and then, you know, opponents and scheduling and stuff, that's all done through the state website or the Discord, or how do those schools kind of first get connected with what they're doing for the week?
So when we send out registration and schools sign up, I will also send out roster documents after they've registered. And then it's up to then the coach, advisor, or GM in order to fill in their player information. And it's very simply like first name, last name, and then their IGN, their in-game name, if you will.
Mhm.
And there are various websites that I usually put on each, so that way they can actually verify that that's the correct account, and like they can actually look up their stats and see that it's there. And that's a way for us too to actually verify who's actually on their roster. So we have a rule that says like they have to be on by 9 a.m. Like they have to be listed by 9 a.m. to give the other team time to scout. And we will have schools that scout.
Sure.
And if they're not on there by 9 a.m., then they're ineligible to play.
Gotcha.
Or if we all of a sudden are getting into a game and we say like, hey, 2 of those players aren't listed on your roster, like they're ineligible to play. And we've had some of those issues. Like we lost a playoff game last year in Overwatch because one of the players wasn't listed, but we were like, oh, we'll let it ride. We'll see what happens. And they ended up being like a ringer basically. And we lost the game to them.
Yeah.
And like, so it's unfortunate. And then you have some people that will like in hindsight be like, we shouldn't have lost that game. That player was ineligible. It's like, you got to call it out when it is. Like, you got to stop that there. And I mean, even before, just holding each other accountable is important with that. So get those out there. That's how we do our scouting. And that's, everybody will have a tab. It's like a central document. We have like our schedule that's on our website. I try to put as much in Discord as possible, but the problem is not every school allows Discord,
Sure.
even for faculty. They won't allow teachers to even access it sometimes. So we can't restrict everything to Discord, which is unfortunate because we spend a lot of time organizing the server and getting everything together in there. So that's tough. But I understand why some school districts do it. And I understand why some are hesitant to do it, but
Yeah. Gotcha.
you should trust your staff.
Yeah. So that's great, for your regular season setups. Can you just touch real quickly on kind of the live events, your postseason tournaments, state finals, things like that are run as LANs? Can you talk about, the importance of those events and kind of how those are run throughout the year?
So number one, they're the coolest thing like I've ever seen. And I've been to QuakeCon, I've been to Gen Con for comic book conventions and like trading card game stuff. But like to go into like Madison College, where they give us this massive space and you see like 14 college tables with recruiters and even TV set up on there so that the college players can play the high school players. But you see 14 college tables there. You see massive drop down projector screens that have all the games going at once. And you see all these tables and the students are all in their team jerseys. They're meeting each other for the first time. They're like, oh man, that's this person. I've played against them so many times online. And like, they're finally getting to meet them. To me, that's the coolest part, is to like see kids from 7-8 different schools who have been playing pickup games in our Discord server finally getting to meet and hang out in person. It's really cool. But then it's also really cool to all of a sudden see like some of these highly competitive games that are neck and neck, that are literal slugfests going back and forth, and a big play happens and the crowd's cheering, people are clapping. And then they come down and they get to, receive their post-game awards for those that get second place, and then the first place trophies and medals and stuff. But even seeing like post-game handshakes. After our Smite semifinal up at North Central Technical College, there were 3 teams that were just crowded in the hallway, just talking about how to play the game a little bit differently, like how they approach it versus how we approach it. How are they doing their draft strategies? Why are they banning these characters? Like, why are you letting this through and not this? And so like there was 20 kids sitting in a hallway without coaches being there, just literally discussing the mechanics of the game and how everybody can improve the quality of their play. And I don't know, I just think it's incredible to see. We even had at the North Central Technical, the kids are at Quick Trip. They walked up to KT to go get some donuts, some healthy breakfast. And there's a random gentleman that was in there and he saw that they had like Rocket League patches on their jerseys. And he's like, what are you guys doing? Like, is there a tournament or something? And they're like, yeah, like it's the state championship over here. So this guy from Quick Trip walked on over and he hung out for like 3 hours. And he was older. He was probably like 65-ish, 70. And he came to talk to me afterwards and he's like, are you running this? I was like, yeah. And he's like, this is really cool. I was like, well, thank you. Number one, he goes, my son plans the RLCS majors.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, excuse me, like in Wausau, Wisconsin? He's like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, he's like, I just went down to that first LAN that they just had like after COVID. My son put all that on. He's putting on Worlds here soon too. And I was just like, in Wausau, Wisconsin, kids randomly pick up some guy from Quick Trip and bring him on over. And that's the connection that we get.
Wow.
So he's like, yeah, I sent your phone number and your email over to my son. Hopefully he gets in contact with you after Worlds. And I was like, okay.
That's pretty amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So never know what's going to happen at state.
Definitely. So who the LANs that do happen, who qualifies for those? How many teams get to play? What's that kind of structure look like?
So it's usually the top 4 from each division. As far as the state championship goes, we have been starting to expand a little bit more as far as like everybody's welcome. Even if your team's not competing, you are more than welcome to come and hang out for the day. talk to all the college recruiters, sit on some of the panels and enjoy that new information that's there. But then we've been trying to add additional tournaments, side tournaments. Like we did a 64 player Smash Brothers tournament. We've done a 1v1 Rocket League tournament. Like we're trying to add more in order to make it like a full day that's available, not just to sit and watch all day, but that they can engage with individuals. But yeah, so the top 4 teams from each division that makes it through the bracket to the semifinals, they get invited to state. And then, yeah, we usually have like 300 to 400 in attendance, I think, per LAN. And then you include then the colleges, and then you include the parents and community members that come out, and it's probably closer to like 500, 600 people that are there for the day. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. And it's semifinals and finals happen during that event?
Yep.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, it's gonna, just kind of wrap things up for the Wisconsin side of things. And I just would love for you to kind of talk about, what are the true benefits of being a member of, the state association, and how do you join, and why is that important for schools if they're just starting, or if they've got an existing program already? Just kind of, why is being a member important, and how do you do that?
I really think just being a member, it's local. It's run by local teachers. It's run by local directors of IT. Like, we're in school districts. There's not a single board member that isn't a member of a school district that's not competing. We understand what's happening in our state, in our education system, inside of our buildings. And we can be adaptive to that. I'll give you a pretty good example. Like, I know that we have some schools that are beyond 70% free and reduced lunch. And those kids are only accessible to play video games at school. Like, they don't even have internet access at home to play. So being able to make some accommodations for some of them, ensuring that like competition is capable for what your students are able to do. We're offering, additional resources. We're sharing resources, sharing curriculum, sharing how-to videos. It's almost like being part of like one of those like CTE mailing lists that I know I get 2 to 3 spam emails a day from, but like ours are more meaningful, I like to think. Yeah. But ultimately, like, we're trying to keep the barrier to entry to 0 here in the state. We don't want to turn anybody away because they can't afford anything. Like, we only request $100. We don't require $100. We just request it. And that's just to help cover like trophies and medals and stuff of that nature. And it's to hopefully say like, you have a little skin in the game. And that too, then trying to help these educators who aren't familiar with these games. They're already coming in overwhelmed, but at the very least, we can help each other say like, hey, this is kind of how you should approach it. This is how your breakdown should be. And it's just like we do in our daily classrooms, where we're helping build each other up as a network. To me, that's the most important benefit from a school side of being in it. And then serving your students. We're looking at like 85% of kids identify as playing video games. They're already doing it. Let's harbor it for something positive. I try to brag a little bit, but like, I've had back-to-back years of kids signing esports scholarships. That rivals the number of scholarships received for our traditional athletics since I've been here. At the school that I'm at. And I know that's not, for every school. There's some that are like breeding D1 athletes left and right, but esports is another way of opening opportunities for those kids. It's a way of helping them learn leadership, time management, accountability, responsibility, coordination, like all these different soft skills that we're always looking to bring into the classroom. This is a great way to do it. I have kids that sit in here until 5 o'clock every single day of the week, even if they're not competing, because they just want to hang out. Yeah. Then we run a fun Friday club, and we can't kick kids out at 5 p.m. on a Friday. Like, I don't know a school that doesn't want to offer something to where you're forcibly removing kids on a Friday afternoon to go home. Yeah. Like, that's what it is. to me, the greatest benefit, I just moved into this district that I'm at. I have had so many kids invite me to come to graduation. They want me to sign their yearbooks. They want me to come to their grad parties. Like, I've never had that type of connection, and it's been through esports that I have it. Like I feel like I've been in this district for 10 years because of the relationship that I have with certain kids, just through esports. So it's been powerful for me to use in the classroom. So
Awesome. So then the big question, if I'm a district that's not a member, how do I join?
email me. I will take the time. I work until like 8 or 9 p.m. every day. So if you're willing to take a phone call in the afternoon or evening, I will jump on a call. I will walk through all of this with you. We will add you on the mailing list. We will host coaching clinics probably around August. Like, we do some onboarding that's there in order to try to help get schools up to speed. I will take the time out of my day to help you. And you can email me, you can Discord me, you can tweet at me, you can DM me on LinkedIn. Like, I will respond. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. Awesome. It's pretty straightforward, which I love. So, and kind of thinking, just kind of shifting gears real quick, kind of towards the end here, for those schools that are starting new programs, and maybe you're thinking, man, we don't have esports in our school right now in June 2nd, but I want a program by next fall or next spring, and I want to be a member, but we don't know where to start. Not only are the resources that Wisconsin has are amazing and great, ByteSpeed's also here to help in that process. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what we do, we're a custom IT solutions provider, and esports has been a really big part of what we've done for the last 5 or 6 years. We see the impact that it's making in the schools and with the students, and those stories that Mike shared are not mutually exclusive to his high school. They're happening all over the country. And that's a really big, huge thing to take hold of and to help try and replicate. So ByteSpeed, yes, we're a hardware company, but we have a bunch of other resources available for those of you that are looking for, information and where to start and how to get going. So just a couple of things that we have on our website, bytespeed.com/gravity gaming is our esports specific page. And there, we have a ton of different resources linked out, free consults with myself to where, we can sit down. I ran a college program, like I said, back in 2016 for 3 years. So a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis is sitting down with schools and kind of walking them through, here's the equipment you need. Here's what your day-to-day is going to look like. Here are the things that we need to talk to your administration about and kind of get the right stakeholders involved. And that's all free of charge and no pressure, from the ByteSpeed side, because we understand that it's not as simple as just saying, tomorrow we've got an esports program. There are different things that need to happen along the way to get you from point A to point B. We've got a ton of previously recorded webinars also linked from that page. So, the stuff like we've done today, also, other webinars in the past, we've covered a number of different topics from funding to, how do you run a film review session, stuff on hardware, stuff on different coaches associations and things like that. So a lot of really, really good content that's free and available straight from our website or our YouTube page. We've also got a bunch of fundraising resources linked from our website, because that's the number one question we always get is, how do I pay for this equipment? How do I actually get PCs and consoles and all the extras that we need to participate? How do we pay for that? So the ByteSpeed website, we link out to a couple of different sites, stuff like oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name right now. E-Team Sponsor, which is a crowdfunding platform that traditional athletics has been using for a really long time. I ran college track and cross country, and we did an E-Team Sponsor fundraiser every year, and that's what paid for our jerseys and for sweats and other things. And it's a really easy platform to use. There's also a ton of different STEM and education grants out there for multi-use equipment, getting grant money to help fund maybe an academic program in the school, but also applying that and saying, hey, these CAD machines that we wrote this grant for have graphics cards and the right hardware to actually, play the games that the Wisconsin State Association is playing. So there's a ton of those fundraising resources listed. And then we also have information on the state and national orgs that are out there, and Wisconsin being linked straight from that website. So, you can check out all the information that they have on their webpage. And we've got stuff like the National Coaches Association linked, and other opportunities to, get in touch with people like Mike who are passionate about helping, you start your own programs. We've got a ton more. One real thing that I would love to just quick mention, because it is kind of getting into the summertime and budgets are coming to a close or maybe opening up. If you are a school that's looking at hardware, our great sponsor Intel, we have a ton of really amazing Gravity Gaming hardware still available and ready to ship this summer. If you are in need of, maybe you're refreshing a lab, or like I said, starting fresh and want to do this for your school for next year, or, January of next year. We've got a lot of really amazing products still available. The Extreme NUC PHK has actually been one of our most popular solutions here over the last 6 to 10 months. It's an 11th gen product, so it's coming to the kind of the end of its life as we get nearer to 12th gen. But these little, small form factor machines are awesome. They're 11th gen i7s, up to 64 gigs of RAM, and that discrete 2060 graphics card pushes like 300 frames a second on Valorant. So we've got 102 of these left in stock, and they've been really popular at the high school level, at the college level, and beyond that. So if you're looking for really amazing hardware that doesn't take up a lot of space, the PHK NUCs are great for not only for esports, but we've also got schools that are using them for, Adobe Photoshop labs and other things like that. And they VESA mount to the back of a monitor, which is super cool. If you wanted to even more, space saving in your classrooms or on your labs. The other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about is 12th gen Intel is right around the corner. We're kind of making that transition, now to kind of phase out our 11th gen stuff and get into 12th gen. And that would be, for the rest of our Gravity Gaming lineup. So the Solstice, which is more of kind of your normal workstation desktop, especially if you're going to dual purpose these for curriculum and other things, that's a great option. It's a little bit bigger chassis that we can fit more hard drives in, and is, a great platform for, a real big workhorse on the academic side as well. We've got our best-selling Apollo that's been the most popular option for the last year and a half. Just a really good mix of bang for your buck performance and price in a really good, performance chassis that's got, all of the bells and whistles of our flagship Nebula. All three of these desktops are going to be able to utilize that 12th gen hardware extremely well. And the one thing that I want to point out, I've got a bunch of processors listed on the screen. That's the 12th gen lineup that we're going to run with. The i3 12100 is going to be a game changer, especially for the schools that are attending or watching this and are on a bigger budget or a bigger constraint for their budget. The i3 12100 is benchmarking at or above 10th and 11th gen i5s for $80 cheaper. So moving into the summer and into the fall, we're really excited at Gravity Gaming to be able to quote i3s for gaming and really not be concerned about gaming performance and what those processors can handle. It's going to be really important because for the last year, 2 to 2 years, prices of desktops and gaming hardware has gone significantly up from where it was, 3 years ago when I started at ByteSpeed. With the pandemic and all the constraints overseas, stuff's been getting more expensive, and we can't really build $1,000 gaming desktop anymore. But with, the advancements in technology that are happening, and this, like I said, this i3 that's coming up with the 12th gen Intel, we're going to be able to hopefully start to creep those prices back down and make things more accessible for schools that are looking to get into gaming. So Intel's got some amazing stuff. We're really excited. And we just want to say, thank you again for the sponsorship of today's webinar, and also, helping hundreds of schools over the last couple of years through us here at ByteSpeed. We've shipped a ton of Intel product and been really, really happy with it. So just a couple of things to throw out there if you're looking at hardware. Between the PHK NUC and 12th gen coming right around the corner, it's a good time to be looking at stuff for next school year. A year from now, if you're thinking of joining or starting a program in your school. And now I just want to open it up, real quick for some Q&A. We're at 3:45, so we don't have to keep things open for too long. But if there's questions that we didn't get to during the webinar, we'd love to see those be submitted now. My and Mike's contact information is on the screen here. Feel free to call, text, email, tweet, LinkedIn, Woof, whatever is out there. Feel free to get in touch with myself, and I know Mike's policy is the same. I do see we had one question from earlier from Chris. Based on the pilots, which games seem likely to use next year? Maybe Mike, can you touch on that at all?
The two big ones that I know that we're going to add is going to be Valorant and Fortnite. Which season yet, I'm not entirely sure, but we can't do NBA 2K because of the exclusivity deal. And then Apex won't support K-12 Scholastic. So it doesn't mean that we can't do certain things with Apex. It's just we have to play within the guidelines that they're allowing us. So
great. Awesome. Any other questions from those of you that are still in the chat? Feel free to throw them in the chat or the Q&A. Otherwise, if you're watching this on the YouTube page after the fact, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. We'd love to get in touch with you after the fact, answer those questions, and make sure that you're getting all of the information that you need. Mike, real quick, while there's another maybe minute or two to allow people to throw in some questions, is there any kind of closing thoughts or anything that you want to touch on before we say goodbye for this afternoon?
I don't think anything crazy. The only thing that I do recommend to most schools is don't be afraid to start with just one title each season. Don't overload yourself. We've had some people that have 8 JV teams, and then when Thursday comes around, they're like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. And just feel free to start with one team on varsity, one team on JV. It's easier to expand later once you feel comfortable. There's no need to drink from the fire hose.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I'm not seeing anything else roll in. So I just want to say again, thank you so much for kind of sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and helping us out today with just kind of spreading some info on the Wisconsin High School Esports Association. We really appreciate it. We've loved the partnership, and we're really excited to see kind of where the state goes from here. And I just want to say, from myself and the rest of the people here at ByteSpeed, just thank you so much for doing as much as you do for the long hours and the tough work and having as big of an impact as you have had. It's really encouraging to see, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and Josh, don't sell yourself short. You guys over there at ByteSpeed and Gravity have been a key in all of this too. So thank you as well.
Awesome. And one last thank you to Intel for sponsoring today's webinar. For the recording, check our YouTube channel or your emails after we're done here today. That email should go out with the recording link sometime tomorrow morning. So thanks everybody for joining us live. This has been a esports webinar from Gravity Gaming and Intel. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.